Let me tell you something straight. Success is not luck. It's not something that randomly shows up at your door one day. It's not reserved for the talented, the connected, or the lucky. Success is designed, it's engineered, and most importantly, it's intentional. The problem is, most people are living life by default, not by design. They wake up, scroll their phones, go through routines they didn't choose, listen to opinions they didn't question, and then wonder why they're not where they want to be. If you want success, you have to flip that. You have to become radically intentional. First, get brutally honest with yourself. What do you actually want? Not what your parents want. Not what society tells you is impressive. What do you want? Because if you don't define success for yourself, you'll spend your entire life chasing someone else's version of it, and that's the fastest way to feel empty even when you win. Second, build self-awareness like it's your superpower. You're not bad at everything. You're not good at everything either. Some of you are trying to win in areas where you have zero natural interest or skill just because it looks good on Instagram. That's a losing game. Double down on your strengths. Be honest about your weaknesses. And most importantly, stop comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel. Third, respect the process. Everybody wants the result. Nobody wants the reps. Success is not built in one big moment. It's built in the small, boring, consistent actions you take every single day. Going to the gym once doesn't change your body. Posting one video doesn't build your brand. Working hard for 1 week doesn't change your life. But doing the right things over and over again, that's where everything changes. Fourth, design your environment. You can't hang around negativity, distractions, and low standards and expect to build a high-performance life. Your environment is either pushing you forward or pulling you back. There's no neutral. Audit your circle, audit your habits, audit your daily inputs. Because if you're constantly consuming nonsense, you're going to produce nonsense. Fifth, fall in love with losing. Yeah, I said it. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's the pathway to it. Every mistake you make gives you feedback. Every setback gives you data. The only way you actually lose is if you quit or if you let other people's opinions stop you. And that brings me to the last point, play the long game. We live in a world where everyone wants everything fast. Fast money, fast fame, fast results. But real success, that's built over years. It's patience mixed with relentless effort. It's understanding that you might not see results today, tomorrow, or even next year. But if you stay consistent, if you stay focused, if you keep adjusting and learning, it will come. So if you really want to design your life to attract success, here's the truth. Take control, take responsibility, and start building a life that aligns with who you actually are, not who the world expects you to be. Because when you do that, when your actions, your environment, your mindset, and your purpose all align, success doesn't need to be chased anymore. It starts chasing you. Clarity of purpose is where everything begins, yet it's the part most people skip because it's uncomfortable. It forces you to sit with yourself without distractions and ask hard questions. What do I actually want? Why does it matter to me? Too many people are chasing goals they inherited from their parents, their friends, or social media. They're running fast, but in the wrong direction. And the scary part is, you can spend years climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. When you have clarity, your decisions become easier. You stop saying yes to everything and start protecting your time and energy. You don't feel the need to compare yourself to others because you're focused on your own path. Without clarity, every opportunity looks tempting, every trend feels urgent, and every opinion starts to shake your confidence. That's how people get stuck. Not because they lack ability, but because they lack direction. Clarity also fuels motivation in a different way. When you know your why, you don't need constant external validation to keep going. You're not doing the work for applause, likes, or approval. You're doing it because it connects to something deeper. That kind of motivation is more stable, more resilient, and much harder to break when things get difficult. But here's the truth: clarity doesn't always come instantly. It's not something you magically wake up with one day. It's something you build through action, reflection, and adjustment. You try things, you learn what excites you and what drains you, and over time, the picture becomes clearer. The mistake people make is waiting for perfect clarity before they start. That leads to hesitation and overthinking. You don't need perfect clarity to begin, but you do need enough honesty to admit what doesn't feel right. Start eliminating what isn't aligned, and you'll naturally move closer to what is. Pay attention to what gives you energy, what makes you lose track of time, what you're willing to struggle for. Those are clues. The more you listen to them, the sharper your direction becomes, and the less distracted you feel by things that were never meant for you in the first place. Self-awareness is one of the most underrated advantages you can build, yet it's the foundation of designing a life that actually works for you. Most people move through life on autopilot, reacting instead of reflecting, copying instead of understanding. They don't take the time to study themselves, and because of that, they keep making decisions that don't align with who they truly are. If you don't know yourself, you'll constantly put yourself in situations where you struggle unnecessarily. Real self-awareness starts with honesty. Not surface-level honesty, but the kind where you're willing to admit what you're good at and what you're not. Everyone wants to highlight their strengths, but very few are willing to confront their weaknesses without making excuses. The truth is, ignoring your weaknesses doesn't make them disappear. It just makes them more expensive over time. When you understand them, you can either improve them strategically or build systems that protect you from them. At the same time, many people underestimate their strengths because they come naturally. What feels easy to you might be extremely valuable to someone else. That's why self-awareness isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about recognizing what's already working and doubling down on it. When you lean into your natural abilities, progress feels more sustainable and less forced. Another key part of self-awareness is understanding your patterns. What distracts you? What environments make you productive? What kind of people bring out your best energy? And which ones drain you? These patterns shape your daily behavior, and your daily behavior shapes your long-term results. If you don't identify them, you'll keep repeating cycles without realizing why you're stuck. Self-awareness also protects you from comparison. When you truly understand your own path, you stop measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. You realize that different people have different starting points, different skills, and different definitions of success. That perspective gives you confidence, not arrogance, but a grounded sense of direction that isn't easily shaken by external noise. Developing self-awareness requires reflection, feedback, and sometimes discomfort. It means being open to learning about yourself, even when the truth isn't flattering. It means asking for honest input from people you trust and actually listening instead of getting defensive. The more you understand yourself, the more intentional your decisions become. And the less energy you waste trying to be someone you're not. Consistency is where most people fall apart. Not because they don't understand it, but because they underestimate how powerful it really is. Everyone gets excited about big moves, big changes, and big bursts of motivation. They go all in for a few days, maybe a few weeks, and then they burn out. That cycle repeats over and over, and they start believing that they lack discipline, when in reality they're just approaching progress the wrong way. Intensity feels productive in the moment. It gives you a rush, makes you feel like you're doing something significant. But intensity without consistency is unstable. It depends on mood, energy, and external circumstances. The moment life gets busy or something unexpected happens, that intensity disappears. Consistency, on the other hand, is built on commitment, not emotion. It's about showing up, whether you feel like it or not, whether it's convenient or not. Small actions done daily don't look impressive at first. Posting one piece of content, reading a few pages, practicing a skill for an hour, making one meaningful connection. These things seem almost too simple to matter. But when you stack them day after day, week after week, they start to compound. That's when the results become visible, and people on the outside suddenly call it success, even though it was built quietly over time. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, you reinforce a sense of reliability. You start to believe in your own ability to execute. And that confidence carries into bigger challenges. On the flip side, when you constantly start and stop, you create doubt. You begin to question whether you can actually finish anything, which makes it even harder to stay committed the next time. Another important part of consistency is designing it to be realistic. If your plan is too extreme, it won't last. People often set goals that require massive effort every single day, and that's not sustainable. It's better to aim for actions you can repeat even on your worst days. That's how you build momentum that doesn't break under pressure. Over time, consistency reduces the need for motivation. You're no longer relying on feeling inspired to take action. It becomes part of your identity, something you do automatically. The focus shifts from chasing quick results to trusting the process, knowing that each small step is contributing to something much bigger than what you can see right now. Your environment is shaping you more than you realize, and most people don't take control of it. They think success is just about willpower, discipline, and motivation. But they ignore the fact that their surroundings are constantly influencing their behavior. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the habits you're exposed to every day, these things quietly set your standards and expectations. If you're surrounded by people who complain, make excuses, and avoid responsibility, it becomes normal. Not because you consciously choose it, but because repetition makes it familiar. On the other hand, if you're around people who take action, who push themselves, who hold themselves accountable, that energy starts to affect you as well. You begin to raise your own standards without even forcing it. The same applies to your digital environment. What you watch, scroll through, and listen to is shaping your mindset every single day. If your inputs are filled with negativity, distractions, and low-value content, it becomes harder to think clearly and act with intention. You start comparing yourself, doubting yourself, and wasting time without even noticing. But when you intentionally choose content that educates, challenges, and inspires you, your thinking starts to shift in a more focused direction. Your physical environment matters too. The space you work in, the level of organization around you, even the small details of your daily setup can either support your productivity or work against it. A cluttered, distracting space makes it harder to concentrate, while a clean and intentional setup reduces friction and helps you stay consistent with your actions. Designing your environment is about reducing the need for constant self-control. Instead of relying on willpower to avoid distractions, you remove or limit them in the first place. Instead of hoping to stay motivated, you place yourself in situations where taking the right action is the easiest option. This approach makes progress feel more natural and less forced. It also requires making difficult decisions, especially when it comes to people. Not everyone in your life will align with where you want to go, and that's a reality many avoid confronting. Creating distance from negative influences doesn't mean you're disrespectful or disloyal. It means you're intentional about your growth. At the same time, seeking out people who challenge you and inspire you becomes a priority, because proximity to the right energy can accelerate your progress in ways that effort alone cannot. Failure is one of the most misunderstood parts of success because people attach emotion to it instead of information. The moment something doesn't work out, they label it as a loss, a sign that they're not good enough, or proof that they should stop. That reaction is what actually holds them back, not the failure itself. When you shift your perspective and start seeing failure as feedback, everything changes. It stops being something to avoid and starts becoming something you can use. Every time you try something and it doesn't go the way you expected, you're getting data. You're learning what works, what needs to be adjusted, and where your gaps are. That kind of insight is valuable, but only if you're willing to look at it objectively. Most people don't. They take it personally, and because of that, they miss the lesson completely. They repeat the same mistakes or avoid trying again, which keeps them stuck in the same place. There's also a fear of judgment that makes failure feel heavier than it actually is. People worry about what others will think if they mess up, so they play it safe. They choose comfort over growth, and in doing so, they limit their potential. The reality is, most people aren't paying as much attention as you think, and even if they are, their opinions don't determine your future. What matters is how you respond to the situation. Embracing failure doesn't mean you enjoy things going wrong. It means you accept that it's part of the process. You understand that improvement requires experimentation, and experimentation comes with risk. The more you're willing to try, the more opportunities you create to learn and refine your approach. Over time, those lessons compound just like consistent actions do. Another important part is separating your identity from your outcomes. Just because something failed doesn't mean you are a failure. It simply means that a specific attempt didn't produce the desired result. Keeping that distinction allows you to stay confident while still being open to change. You can adjust your strategy without questioning your self-worth. When you build a mindset that welcomes feedback from failure, you become more resilient. Setbacks don't stop you, they redirect you. You recover faster, adapt quicker, and continue moving forward with more clarity than before. That ability to keep going, to keep learning, and to keep refining your approach is what allows long-term progress to happen, even when things don't go as planned. Playing the long-term game requires a level of patience that most people struggle with, especially in a world that constantly promotes speed and instant results. Everywhere you look, there are stories of overnight success, quick money, and rapid growth, and it creates the illusion that things should happen fast. When they don't, people get frustrated, lose focus, and start jumping from one opportunity to another without giving anything enough time to actually work. The truth is, meaningful success is built over time through sustained effort, learning and adaptation. It's not about what you achieve in a week or even a year. It's about what you build over 5, 10, or 20 years. When you adopt that mindset, your behavior changes. You stop chasing shortcuts and start focusing on building real skills, strong relationships, and a solid foundation that can support long-term growth. A long-term mindset also changes how you deal with setbacks. Instead of seeing them as major failures, you begin to view them as small parts of a much bigger journey. One bad decision, one missed opportunity, or one difficult phase doesn't define your entire path. It becomes easier to stay consistent because you understand that progress isn't supposed to be linear. There will be ups and downs, and both are necessary for growth. Another important shift is how you measure success. Short-term thinking is focused on immediate results, like money, recognition, quick wins. Long-term thinking focuses on trajectory. Are you improving? Are you learning? Are you moving in the right direction? Even if the results aren't visible yet. That perspective keeps you grounded and prevents you from making impulsive decisions that might hurt you later. Delayed gratification becomes a key factor. You're willing to sacrifice temporary comfort for future gain. You're willing to put in effort now without immediate rewards because you trust that the payoff will come later. That kind of discipline separates those who build something lasting from those who constantly start over. It also requires belief, especially during periods when nothing seems to be working. There will be times when your efforts don't show visible results, when progress feels slow, and when doubt starts to creep in. In those moments, having a long-term vision keeps you steady. It reminds you why you started and why it's worth continuing, even when the outcomes aren't immediate. At the end of the day, designing your life to attract success is not about one big decision or one perfect moment. It's about alignment. It's about knowing what you want, understanding who you are, and committing to the process even when it's slow, uncomfortable, and uncertain. When you combine clarity with self-awareness, you stop chasing distractions. When you stay consistent, you start building real momentum. When you control your environment, you make success easier to sustain. When you embrace failure, you turn setbacks into stepping stones. And when you think long-term, you stop quitting too early on things that actually matter. Most people are waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, or the right conditions. But the truth is, success doesn't come from waiting, it comes from building. It comes from showing up every day, making better choices, and taking full responsibility for the direction of your life. You don't need to have everything figured out to start, but you do need to start if you ever want to figure things out. Because the people who win are not the ones who had it easiest, fastest, or luckiest. They're the ones who stayed in the game, kept learning, kept adjusting, and refused to settle for a life that wasn't designed on their own terms.